G'day, it's Shane Dowling here from kangaroocourtofaustralia.com. Now in this video we're going to cover some of the evidence that was given by Gladys Berejiklian and Daryl Maguire at ICAC on Thursday and Friday the 28th and 29th of October 2021. It's evidence that I say that shows a very powerful prima facie case to charge Gladys Berejiklian with misconduct in public office and also concealing a serious indictable offence. Now there's a lot more evidence than what we're going to watch here, but I'm trying to get some evidence that you probably haven't seen in the media, and certainly because we've got a bit more time we can sort of show a bit more of it, which shows Gladys Berejiklian ducking and weaving, and also put some context behind it. Now in the first part you'll see Gladys Berejiklian saying to Daryl Maguire that she's going to throw a truckload of money at Wagga Wagga. What you don't know is that that's after he's resigned from the Liberal Party because he was found to be corrupt in 2018. He admitted being corrupt and taking kickbacks for property deals, or attempting to. So this is after he's resigned. He's still a member of Parliament, and she's talking about throwing a truckload of money at Wagga Wagga. Now at that point it's the end of July 2018. He's still a member of Parliament, he just hasn't resigned from Parliament. So as he says in the video, he was a leper at that stage, but she's still continuing to deal with him and she's still in a relationship with him at this point. So let's have a listen to it.
All right, and I'll throw money at Wagga. You just have to do what's right from your end, otherwise you'll kill me.
No, it's fine. I'm batting for you. You just need to know what the right things are to throw money at Wagga. And you
I already know. You've already told me the three top things.
And you need to go and give them a stadium. Give them a
I'll do that.
stadium.
I'll do that too. Don't worry.
Well, the bureaucrats knocked it all out.
Yes, yes, but I can overrule them anyway.
I take it in those two extracts you agree that one of the voices is yours and one is Ms. Berejiklian's?
Yes, I agree.
There was a reference to the three top things. I take it that one of the three top things was RCM stage 2, as in the recital hall?
Yes, that's correct.
Ms. Berejiklian is transcribed as saying to you, you've just got to do what's right from your end, otherwise you'll kill me. Do you remember hearing a reference to that?
Correct.
What did you understand her to be saying by saying you've got to do what's right from your end?
Shut up and stay out of the campaign.
Was it anything to do with your resignation, or was it, at least as you recalled it, to do with shut up and stay out of the campaign?
No, it had nothing to do with the resignation, but certainly my preparedness to help behind the scenes. That's what I think she was referring to.
So is this right? You have a recollection of having preparedness to help in terms of making suggestions as to how the by-election campaign should be run to Mr. Bentley and to Ms. Berejiklian directly, is that right?
Yes.
To anyone else within the party, so far as you can recall?
No, nobody spoke to me. I was a leper.
Now that is very powerful evidence for a number of reasons. It shows she did not care if he was corrupt. She was more than happy to deal with him, and she was more than happy to be in a relationship with him. So when she says that she didn't think he was acting corruptly when they were in a relationship prior to 2018 and prior to him resigning from Parliament, well, that evidence there tends to suggest she didn't care whether he was a corrupt or not. That was not an issue to her. Now the next part you'll see Sophie Callanan, SC, Gladys Berejiklian's own barrister, questioning Daryl Maguire. And Daryl Maguire basically throws Gladys Berejiklian under a bus, saying yes, he did use the close personal relationship for his own benefit to push various projects. Now let's have a listen to it.
Mr. Maguire, were you using your close personal relationship with Ms. Berejiklian to access her for the purpose of lobbying for projects and the Wagga region more generally?
Would you repeat that, please?
Were you using the close personal relationship you had with Ms. Berejiklian in order to access her so as to lobby for projects and the Wagga region?
We tended to keep our private discussions and our business discussions fairly separate. But yeah, I would have given her a hard time on certain things. Yeah, I wouldn't have cut her any slack.
Now that's one of those cases where the barrister's meant to know the answer before she asks the question. I'm 100% sure if she knew the answer before she asked that question, she was never going to ask the question. It's fairly embarrassing for that barrister to get that answer, but anyhow. Now the next part is Acting Commissioner Ruth McColl drilling down to the fact that Daryl Maguire was getting assistance from Premier Gladys Berejiklian while she was the most powerful person in New South Wales to get his various projects over the line. And the point that Ruth McColl doesn't specifically make, but is obviously getting at, is that Gladys Berejiklian had more of an obligation to declare that personal relationship than anyone else in New South Wales. So she should have been held to a higher standard than everyone else because she was the most powerful person in New South Wales, as far as the government is concerned. But she actually held herself to a lower standard than everyone else by not declaring the relationship.
As at 2018, of course, Ms Berejiklian was the Premier of New South Wales and the most powerful minister, if I can put it that way, in the state. That'll answer one way. And what you were asking her to do, or drawing to her attention in this outrageous lease, was a roadblock you wanted removed in the way of the RCM being able to transfer to the 1 Symonds Street site.
Yes, I wanted her to take an interest in the problem.
And that was because you understood she had the power to ensure that the outrageous lease requirement was removed, didn't you?
Well, I guess ultimately she would have had the power, yes.
She said in one of the telephone intercepts, which Mr Robertson paid to you this afternoon, that she could overrule the bureaucracy.
Yes.
You recall hearing that? And that was your understanding that that was the case, wasn't it?
Yes.
And you also called upon her in relation to the Wagga by-election to throw money at Wagga Wagga.
That's correct.
And that was also because you understood as Premier, she had the power to make money flow to the electorate.
Yes, that's correct.
And she also had the power to make money flow to projects while she was Premier, such as the Conservatorium.
Yes, that's correct.
And while she was Treasurer, to projects such as the Clay Target Association.
Yes, that's correct.
Now the next part, Scott Robinson, the counsel assisting the Royal Commission, really drills down to the fact that Gladys Berejiklian made other declarations while she was Premier, and such as her cousins. Now the editing at the next part you're going to watch isn't great, but they start off talking about the fact that Gladys Berejiklian declared the fact that she had got 2 cousins working in government. And she also goes on to declare, you know, people she had met at functions before she appointed them to various board positions. Yet she failed to declare the relationship she was having with Daryl Maguire.
Exercise of your public functions.
I think it was a bit more than that. They were paid a salary to work in those agencies. They earned their profit and keep. It was a direct financial interest, and it was beyond that notion of favour. It was more about they earned their living by working in those agencies for which at certain times I may have had authority or responsibility.
So that was a disclosure, is this right? That was a disclosure because you saw that those individuals could get a private benefit for the exercise of your functions? Is that what you're saying?
I just wanted to make clear that that there was nothing untoward in relation to those matters.
Nothing untoward, including because you wish to avoid any suggestion that any decision-making function that you're involved in may have acted by way of a favour to those individuals.
Well, it's more broader than that. I didn't want them to have any adverse impact because of anything that I did or said or acted upon.
Might have been broader than what I just put, but at least included what I put.
It would have included that, yes.
Is that the reason why you also made disclosures from time to time regarding people who you knew when those individuals were being put forward for potential things like committee appointments and the like?
Yes, if I knew them, if I felt that there was an appointment made to avoid any sense of favouritism, or not so much that word, but to avoid any perception that everything was done above board, I would have declared that.
Why didn't you declare your close personal relationship with Mr Maguire with a view to avoiding any perception of favouritism, to use your phrase, in relation to Mr Maguire?
We didn't share finances. We didn't live together. I was not confident in his level of commitment. I did not regard him as a member of my family, and I did not regard there to be any impact on my public responsibility, and I did not think the relationship had a sufficient status for me to disclose it. And had I been in a position where I thought it was significant enough, I would have, but I didn't have confidence. I didn't have confidence that was the case, and I didn't think it was significant enough for me to have to disclose.
I take it you don't share finances with the cousins in respect of whom you made a declaration?
I'm a family. They're my blood, though. They're my family.
Take it that you don't share finances with those cousins,
No, I
is that
don't.
right? You don't share finances in relation to the individuals who you knew who were put forward in relation to committees associated with the government?
That would be the case, yeah.
You don't live with the cousins or with those other individuals, I take it?
No.
I'm still trying to understand how you draw a distinction between making declarations in relation to people who you know. There was one declaration, for example, where you said, I know this person because of attendance at functions, but not in respect of someone who you confirmed this morning you loved, you understood that he loved you, he had a key to your house, and you had, for example, an emotional attachment. How do you draw the line between those two propositions?
Because for me, a relationship which required declaration would have had more status in my mind, and I was very uncertain as to the status of that relationship. It was not, for me in my mind, it wasn't significant enough because I didn't know where it was going, and I didn't feel comfortable with his level of commitment. He would sometimes even be in Sydney and I wouldn't even know. I didn't feel that level of commitment or that level of status that would require me to disclose it.
Can we go please to volume 33, page 253. Using the redacted version, please. I'm going to show you an extract from the 2012-2020 report of matters abstained by government, the extract relating to your personal declarations. Now, do you see there in relation to the first matter, you declared an interest in this appointment. It's an appointment to a board, but we've redacted the name of the board due to attendance with that person at functions. Do you see that there?
Yes, I do.
And presumably, to use your term, the status of your relationship or friendship or knowledge of that particular individual was a much lesser status than the status of your relationship with Mr Maguire. Would you agree with that?
Yes, but making an appointment is very different to providing a community project. A community project is in the interest of the public. This is a personal matter where somebody's being appointed to a board, and I would have wanted to make sure, as other colleagues do, to make sure that there was no perception that I'd done anything wrong.
But why wouldn't you be concerned about the same perception in relation to Mr Maguire? A potential perception that you might be influenced, whether consciously or subconsciously, by the existence of your personal relationship with him. Why wouldn't you be astute to avoid any suggestion of a lack of probity in circumstances where, as you admitted before, you regarded it as a significant aspect of public trust in government, that public monies be spent in the public interest and that there be probity in decision making?
Because, Mr Robertson, at all times, every decision that I participated in or every decision I took in public life was in the interests of the community and the interests of the public or the interests of the government. I was very, very conscious and very able to separate what occurred in my private life with what I I exercised in my public responsibilities and my public duties.
So do you say you drew a bright line between the public and the private, as it were, with Mr Maguire, and you didn't allow the public to interfere on the private and the other way around? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that would have also applied with close friends I had in the parliament. This is the issue for many of us. We deal with colleagues on a day-to-day basis. For some of them, we have affection. For some of them, we don't. But at the end of the day, we need to make decisions that are in the best interests of the community. And if that means building a community, an asset, or providing support for a community organisation, those decisions are based on the merits of those proposals. Those decisions are based on the merits of what they provide to the community.
Presumably the decision as to whether or not to appoint a particular person to a committee is also made on the merits of that appointment, correct?
Yes, but that's a very different... appointing somebody to a body gives them particular rights and obligations, which is different to making a decision on providing a community project. That is, to my mind, a distinction. You always make decisions when you're exercising your duties in relation to projects about, is it in the community's interests to build this asset or provide this support? Is it in the government's interests to make sure that we are cognizant of community support? So that for me was a very clear distinction.
So you are not concerned, even now with the benefit of hindsight, of a concern that there may be some suggestion or perception of influence in relation to the decision making that you're involved in relation to projects that Mr Maguire was advancing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Mr Robertson, I always made decisions based on merit. Anybody who's worked with me, alongside me, would know that I would always work within the rules, that I would always make sure that every decision I took was based on what was in the best interests of the community, but also in the best interest from time to time of the government. It was important for us to maintain community support.
Take it you're aware that a number of your colleagues have given evidence before this commission during the course of the public inquiry to the effect that, at least in their view, and at least as a matter of prudence, this relationship should have been disclosed to them. You're aware of evidence to that effect?
But respectfully, they wouldn't have known.
Are you aware of evidence to that effect?
I am aware of the evidence.
And I take it you disagree with the view that's been expressed by your colleagues in relation to that matter?
Well,
you don't see, even with the benefit of hindsight,
yes,
you don't see any reason why you should have disclosed this relationship, including for the purposes of avoiding what you described before as a perception of influence or favour?
Respectfully, they weren't in it, so they wouldn't have known my state of mind or what I assume the status of the relationship to be. I respect them, they're entitled to their opinion, but it is just that. They were not in what I was, they were not in my situation, and I was the only one that could determine what I felt about the status of that relationship. But I doubt any of them would disagree with the fact that in all of my dealings with any of them, or in all of my dealings with public life, I always did what was best, in my view, for the community, and from time to time for the government, based on what the community mood was.
You're aware that when you're a minister, you had a duty to notify this commission or a head of an agency responsible to you of any matter that you suspected on reasonable grounds concerns or may concern corrupt conduct?
Of course.
You understood that that included a duty to report any submission. I'll say that again. You understood that that included a duty to report any suspicion that you had on reasonable grounds that a member of Parliament was misusing his or her own office for their own benefit or for the benefit of persons close to them.
Of course.
I just want to remind you of some of the evidence that was before this commission in the first public inquiry as a lead into some further questions that I want to ask to you.
Now, the last part is probably the most powerful part, I think, because it deals with the $1.5 million bribe that Daryl Maguire had negotiated for himself. My understanding, he never eventually got that $1.5 million bribe. People refer to it as $1.5 million commission he had negotiated for himself. There was no commission, it was a bribe. He was a member of government. He wanted a big kickback to get a land deal over the line. So it's a bribe he'd negotiated for himself. Don't refer to it as a commission. There ain't no commission. Now, the important part here is that Gladys Berejiklian is ducking and weaving all over the place, making sure she doesn't answer the question or giving stupid answers. Of course she paid attention, and of course she was aware of it. We've heard in other tape calls where she says, I don't need to know about that, when he starts talking about his kickbacks and his corrupt dealings. So what people, well, let's have a listen to it first.
Ms. Berejiklian, can I just ask you to have a look at it around line 26 of this document, being the transcript? Did you see there, you say after I played you a telephone intercept that as at the 1st of September 2017, you had at least some idea as to Mr. Maguire's debt position? You see that there?
Yes, I do.
And then you said, well, clearly, but I wasn't concerned by it, or it didn't interest me. But then you and I have a discussion over the course of a page or so, where if you have a look at around line 38 or thereabouts, there's a reference to $1.5 million. You said, well, that was his business, yep. And then if we turn through to the next page, please. Ultimately, after a series of questions, you'll see about line 13. My question was, but you were at least aware as at the 1st of September 2017 of Mr. Maguire's debt position. Would you agree? Do you see that there?
Yes, I do.
And your answer was, well, according to him, yep. You see that there?
Yes.
So is this right? Your recollection was that as at the 1st of September 2017, you're aware of what Mr. Maguire said his debt position was, namely about $1.5 million.
Well, my position is the same as when I gave evidence.
Yes, I'm just reminding you of the evidence you gave last year.
I don't have any different position to what I articulated.
You know a lot of kids.
Yeah, I'm getting a big tax return, I'm told, so I'm very happy about that.
No, well, that's good. You won't be saying you're poor then for maybe a week, and then you start saying it again.
No, well, I am poor. I'm telling you, 1.59 million poor. Just repeat after me, 1.5 million.
I'm not going to say any such thing.
No, just repeat it. It's right. So I'm going to solve that problem now, which I'm working on.
And can we now please play the excerpt of telephone intercept 1355, which is exhibit 324. First call, Ms. Berejiklian, 1 September 2017. And the one I'm about to play is the 5th of September 2017.
I like my idea of an Airbnb for the Ivanhoe houses. Let's work that one out next. You know, it just all takes time, doesn't it? Got enough hours to date. Now I'm trying to fix Jimmy's problem, and it looks like we finally got the Badger's Creek stuff done. That's good. I'll be glad when that's done, because I'll make it up to pay off my debts, which would be good. In the blue, in one file.
I can't believe it.
Yep. I only want to pay off the house. That's all I want to get rid of. So I'm living debt free. The rest of it I don't care about. I'm happy to do as much investment debt as I can possibly have to sort of get rid of the bad debt, which is the house. And that'll be good.
Now, Ms. Berejiklian, I think you accepted in the last public inquiry that, as you understood it, at least according to I believe it.
Well, I wouldn't take my words literally. It was literally, I had no understanding of the context. I doubt I would have paid much attention to it, and I certainly wouldn't have taken it seriously.
So you're saying it didn't even cross your mind that it was strange that a sitting member of Parliament was suggesting to you that he might be able to make something like $1.5 million in relation to a property deal?
I would have disregarded it, dismissed it, or not taken it seriously, or not thought about it, to be honest. If I'm very busy, I would have just been obliging and let the conversation continue, but I wouldn't have taken it seriously, or at least assumed that anything untoward was happening. He was someone I trusted, and I also believe he was someone my colleagues trusted.
Does that mean the answer to my question is no? It didn't cross your mind that it was strange or unusual or unexpected that a sitting member of Parliament expected or thought or was suggesting that they could make some $1.5 million in relation to a property deal?
Well, he was always talking about pie in the sky things, so I don't think I would have given it any degree of importance or relevance.
Does that mean the answer to my question is no, or is it some other answer?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
It didn't even cross your mind, is this right? Didn't even cross your mind that it might be strange or unusual or unexpected that a then sitting member of Parliament was saying to you that I'm expecting to make some $1.5 million in relation to a single property deal?
It wouldn't have crossed my mind that it would materialise. I would have assumed it's pie in the sky, and I wouldn't have given it any other thought.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand your answer. Is the answer to my question no, it didn't cross your mind that it was somehow unusual or strange that a sitting member of parliament would think that they could earn $1.5 million in relation to a land deal in or around Badgerys Creek?
Well, I wouldn't have thought that. I can't remember what I was thinking when we had that conversation, but if you're asking me whether I suspected he was capable of doing anything untoward, my answer to that is no, I did not have that understanding or appreciation.
I'm asking you whether it stood out to you as strange or unusual or unexpected that a sitting member of parliament thought, at least according to him, that he could make something like $1.5 million out of a property deal in relation to land.
I just can't recall what I thought at the time. I would have dismissed it. It wouldn't have been something that I would have given a second notice to. But obviously, any financial gain outside of one's role as a member of parliament would have required all those processes of disclosure and making sure it was dealt with appropriately by the relevant member.
So does that mean it's something that you may have found as strange at the time, you just don't recall one way or another sitting there now?
Yeah, I just don't have a recollection.
But it was at least not regarded as sufficiently strange that you decided to make any notification to this commission or to an agency responsible to you, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, what people don't realise, and what a lot of the media aren't pointing their finger at, is the fact that misconduct in public office, abusing her position like if it's found by a court of law she's looking down the barrel of jail time, and assisting a partner to get dodgy deals over the line in any shape or form is obviously misconduct in public office. She could be looking down the barrel of some serious jail time. Eddie Obeid went to jail for that. And then we've also got the problem she's got the problem of concealing a serious and direful offence. If you know someone's acting corruptly or committing a crime, you have an obligation to report it. She had an obligation. She failed to do that. Her answers just don't stack up. Now, you have to remember, people are saying, oh, she didn't benefit financially. There's no evidence of that. Well, that's bullshit. If he is a member of parliament and they're pork barrelling into Wagga Wagga to keep him in parliament, he's benefiting financially from his wage as an MP, for starters. We know he's getting kickbacks from property deals. There's a whole heap of ways you can get kickbacks from property deals. You can get kickback getting the original deal over the line, the property deal, you know, the purchase or the sale. You can get a kickback when the construction goes forward from the builder. I think on Thursday I even spoke about someone furnishing the clay pigeon development in Wagga Wagga and them getting a commission. So there's a whole heap of ways you can get commissions. And he has a history of doing that, and without a doubt he had his hand out left, right and centre at every junction of the property deal from start to finish. And he's admitted a number of sections where he'd asked for a commission. So you have to assume he's asking for commissions right along the line of the property deal from start to finish. And Gladys Berejiklian even said in her evidence, or Daryl Maguire certainly did, that they discussed him resigning from Parliament and them going public with their relationship. Now, if that's in the back of her mind, obviously these deals where he's going to clean up his debt or pay off all his debt, $1.5 million bribe, where he's going to pay off his debt, that's obviously a financial benefit for her if that had gone forward, if he had to resign from Parliament after he'd taken all these kickbacks and cleaned up his debt. So to sit back and say she hasn't benefited financially, well, maybe she hasn't. Well, let's have another look at that. If he's in Parliament and the pork barrelling is helping him stay in Parliament, that means he's on the government wage, maybe at least in part because of the pork barrelling. If he's taking her out to dinner or paying for holidays, which they say they've gone on holidays together, is she benefiting financially? I think she has. I think there's an argument to be put that she has benefited financially, whether knowingly or unknowingly, is going to be for a court of law. but she's got big problems, and I think based on what I've put forward in just this short video, there's sufficient evidence for a prima facie case to charge her for misconduct in office, and also concealing serious and indictable offences, the bribes he was taking, the kickbacks he was taking. But what I've put in this video is only a 25-minute video. There's a lot more evidence than that. So when you hear reporters saying, oh, ICAC haven't made out their case, etc., etc., that's bullshit. They need to be having a good look at themselves, the reporters, that is. Anyhow, other than that, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I've written a number of articles on my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia, over the last month and a half, since Gladys and others have resigned, and others been John Barilaro, the former Deputy Premier. So make sure you read those articles, and you can subscribe to my website for the free email notification. When I write new articles, you'll be first to know that there's an article there to be read. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.